Hey guys, welcome back to the shop this week. We are in the finishing stages of our Assyrian experimental bow. This is the part where everything comes together. We put a finish on her, we got a grip on her, peek and tweak the tips, and just see exactly how it shoots. Stick with me, we're just going to get right to it. All right guys, so these are the first few shots with the bamboo back and belly Assyrian bow here, and let's see how this thing performs. I'm shooting relatively heavy arrows, so remember this is 28 pounds at 28 inches. The arrows are about 500 grains. So very quiet. I'm shooting into a headwind here too. The wind's blowing straight into my face. Man, it seems to shoot really pretty smoothly. It's done when the shot is done. It's actually very smooth. I'm gonna have to take some more shots. Okay, so just to kind of give a view of the alignment of these tips, the bow is in alignment really well, and still an awful lot yet to take off of these tips. So we're going to increase the efficiency once we really take these down, but I'm really quite encouraged by how quickly it's shooting a heavy arrow down range. Whew. That was a miss. Yeah, I'm just going to keep taking some shots with this guy, and then we'll work at taking the tips down as the initial pieces of the peeking and tweaking stage. But so far, I'm really pretty encouraged by this design. All right, guys, you can see that I got some reference lines drawn in on my tips here. This one I've already taken down some, but it's to help keep me referenced properly on the sander here. So the bow has been shot now. I would put it in the neighborhood of about 50 shots, maybe a little bit more, because I'm really enjoying shooting this thing. Seems to come home pretty clean, right? So the shot seems to be done when it's done. There really isn't much in the way of any stacking or reverberation on the shot, so I'm feeling really pretty good about its tiller at this point. I did take a little bit off this upper limb like I had proposed doing, even though I'm still showing that I'm about a 7-inch gap here and right around 6 3/4 here. So still at a 1/4 inch, right about a 1/4 inch of positive tiller, if that's what you want to call it, greater gap residing on what would be my upper limb. But shooting it has been quite fun. It's very cold outside though, so in limited doses. I have gone about thinning these tips down pretty well. Let me get into some light so we can actually see what we're dealing with. So you can see that they're pretty slight in the way they're portioned at this point, but I'm going to try and take them down even more. The alignment on this thing's really pretty good. I'm not worried so much about any of that. I'm going to really get these thinned out just a little bit more, take as much mass out of the tips as possible, and then go put a few more arrows through it and see how we're doing. As we start thinning down the tips and approaching final tiller and peaking and tweaking, we'll start shooting some lighter weight arrows just to make sure that it's not you know, out of kilter in any way, like reverberating in the hand is what you would find. So we don't want to get a kind of dry fire effect. So heavy arrows always dampen the bow. We'll see how we do as we climb down that weight scale, the physical weight of these arrows, and start shooting something that's a little more in tune to the weight of this particular bow. All right, guys, it's a little bit chilly out here, but wanted to give you guys just kind of a view of this thing shooting. So here's our alignment. You can kind of, I don't know if you can hear the string twang on there, but it's relatively quiet in that regard. I'll just take a couple shots here. Take a couple more. Okay, so here again, you guys, I'm shooting about 600 grain arrows out of this bow, and it is 30 pounds at best. And I'm maybe 10 or 15 yards away from my target, so. Still really love the way this bow shoots. All right, we'll take just a couple more shots. I am shooting with a thumb release, in case anybody was wondering. Yeah, I really am liking that a lot. So from this point, I think we'll get grip on here, put a finish on it, do any finish sanding, and we'll just wrap this guy up. So I've done a little more finish work here, really just the last of the power tools work with this bow at this point. So kind of cleaned up the riser section a little bit here and give it a good feel in the hand. Took the tips down, and they're quite narrow. So I got it on a little different background so we can get a feel for the contrast there versus my other workbench. But you can see those taper out pretty narrow. Here's the pencil. So that is the thickness there of that tip. You know, it's kind of changed when you turn it sideways. So obviously it's very, very deep, but quite narrow. Yeah, really just kind of closing in on all these little final touches. So at this point, I am going to go ahead and put a finished sand on there, and round over all the edges, finish it up, and take a few more final shots with it. You know, sometimes, guys, having made the decision early on to put a grip is suddenly challenged by how well, you know, the riser section of your bow ends up. And while I am still going to put a grip on this bow, it sure turned out pretty. Once the finish got on there, the grain of that ash really just popped. It looks really beautiful. It's almost a shame to cover it up, but the fact of the matter is, I need that stitching in that seam right across the front here to get that feel, to really have a good purchase on the grip of this bow. All right, guys, so I'm going to take some shots here with about 300 grain arrows. I get a feel for how this thing shoots down range. I've got a can on top of the bale down there that I'm shooting at. It seems to scoop these lighter arrows down range pretty quick. Particularly, well, the sun just came out today. It's been cold all morning. I'll take a few more shots. I guess too, to make sure everybody understands what's going on, I've got blunt tipped arrows there. That's what I'm shooting. Try and get a nice long draw here. See what kind of arrow speed we can get. You know, it seems to shoot, it still seems to shoot really smooth. I can feel it a little more on the release, but not in terms of hand shock. It's still done when it's done. So still a really smooth shot, even with a real light arrow. I think I'm going to take just a couple more shots. Go. So it took me 8 shots. All right, so there's the finished product right there. Turned out, I guess, you know, in my opinion, really pretty well. There's the grip work. Kind of a integral strike plate and grip. I am going to, I actually documented the process for putting a grip like this on, well, I documented putting this grip on this bow. So I'll post that video up soon too, so that, you know, if you guys are interested in doing a similar type of grip, then I can kind of show you how I do it. Here's what that one shot did to the can. Just a nice pass-through shot, you know, out of you figure a blunt arrow out of the 30-pound bow. Clears the can before the can leaves the bale. That's pretty, I think that's pretty, I don't know how impressive that really is. I mean, it just, you know, shot the can. Amputated an inch off of the tips of each limb to bring it down to 60 inches tip to tip, and a 58-inch knock-to-knock bow. So it is a shorter bow. It does draw to 29 inches easily, and that's the weight designation that I gave it. So 30 pounds at 29 inches. Okay. So the finished profile of this, you can see the string poking out there, but this is it finished out really pretty narrow. Right, very wispy at the tips. The weight, the physical weight of this bow, you guys, is 12 ounces. Like, to pick it up weighs less than a can of beer, which is, I think, why it shoots really pretty efficiently. And I may, you know, spend some time too, just kind of taking it beyond that third or the 29 inch and start shooting it at 30 and just kind of ease it into longer draw lengths. But it is, it's definitely a champ in that regard. And I think this is a design that I think I'm going to tinker with the design and try it again. Right, because the riser in here was a little misshapen, and it gave that funky, it just played with me during the tillering process. Get something a little more symmetrical in through the grip, just a little bit more wispy out at the tips, and see what I can do as far as tweaking the design and really making some efficient bows. Something a little heavier with the next round. So that's where that's at, guys. Thanks for joining me along on this build. It was a fun one. I think that like I said, we may have another one in the very near future to really see what we can do to push this design.